You're ankle deep in mud. The air smells like cordite and wet regret. Your heartbeat is sinking to artillery fire, and your commanding officer just screamed, "Move." But nobody's moving, because someone brought a soccer ball. Welcome to the human condition, where we'll fight over flags, borders, and centuries-old drama, but we'll also stop all that bloodshed for a game, a party, or a weirdly emotional bird. Today, we're counting down the top 10 times war was paused for something stupid. Because when the world's on fire, someone's still lighting candles for cake. 10. The Christmas Truce of 1914. It's World War I, the Western Front. You're cold, you're tired, you haven't seen a non-rationed meal in weeks, and the mud has unionized against your boots. Then, at midnight, silence. Not the eerie kind, the holy night kind. British and German troops start singing, carols, in sync. And within hours, they're not just singing, they're exchanging cigarettes, shaking hands, and playing soccer in the literal no man's land. The same no man's land that was filled with corpses the day before. A spontaneous ceasefire broke out across multiple fronts. Men who were legally obligated to kill each other paused to celebrate humanity. For 24 hours, war got benched. Joy subbed in. And then, like a broken save file, everything went back to normal. Machine guns, orders, death. Because even in our darkest chapters, we occasionally remember we're all running the same messed up software. 9. The rugby ceasefire in the Congo. It's 1995. The Second Congo War is brewing, and the air is thick with tension, revolution, and unresolved colonial trauma. But somewhere deep in the jungle, armed rebel factions, groups who couldn't agree on anything, suddenly agree on this. We are not missing the Rugby World Cup final. South Africa versus New Zealand. History in motion. So a temporary ceasefire is negotiated. Not for diplomacy, not for peace, but so rebel soldiers can gather around dusty TVs and watch men in shorts tackle each other for glory. Guns were lowered, radios were tuned. People who would have shot each other hours earlier shared commentary. And in that moment, no one was a warlord. Everyone was a sports fan. After the game, right back to conflict. As if that 80-minute timeout didn't just prove that war is optional, and entertainment is sacred. Rugby 1. Reality 0. 8. The war that stopped for a film premiere. Imagine you're mid-conflict. There's gunfire in the distance, a local mayor is missing, and someone just ran out of fuel and loyalty. But there's a movie dropping tonight, and not just any movie. The one you financed with blood diamonds and questionable favors. This actually happened. In Nigeria, during a period of intense regional fighting, two rival militant factions agreed to pause hostilities for one glorious evening. To attend the premiere of a Nollywood film one of the commanders starred in. Yes, he was the producer. And yes, there was a red carpet, guarded by soldiers in flip-flops. The ceasefire lasted exactly as long as the credits. Then, everyone went back to killing each other. Because when you're fighting a war and building a personal brand, sometimes you have to multitask. Conflict, ongoing, career, thriving. 7. The wedding that froze a conflict. Feudal Japan. A time when honor was everything, swords were extensions of the soul, and family drama could start a multi-generational kill streak. Two samurai clans had been locked in a beef so intense, it made Romeo and Juliet look like a mild disagreement over Spotify playlists. But then, a wedding. The daughter of one clan leader was set to marry the son of another powerful family. Not a peace treaty, not a negotiation. A wedding. And just like that, swords were sheathed, assassins were ghosted, and everyone agreed to press pause on the war so they could attend, in formal kimono with passive-aggressive toasts. For 2 days, there was sake, music, and political maneuvering disguised as dance. No ambushes, no sneak attacks, just you may now kiss the geopolitical buffer zone. After the ceremony, the fighting resumed, but for 48 hours, everyone role-played as if vengeance wasn't part of the after-party. Love, the only known temporary antidote to generational bloodshed. 6. The cake incident, World War II, Sicily. Sicily, 1943. Allied troops are pushing through Axis lines, town by town, building by building, grenade by grenade. Then they enter an abandoned village. Streets empty, windows shattered, not a soul in sight, until they see it. In the center of a long table, untouched and perfectly frosted, sits a wedding cake. Not metaphorical, literal. A multi-tiered, vanilla-scented ceasefire waiting to happen. And in that moment, these exhausted, battle-hardened soldiers did what any rational human being would do. They paused the war. Rifles down, helmets off. They cut the cake, passed it around, and ate like gods at a post-apocalyptic birthday party. No one questioned it. No one looted. They just respected the vibe. After dessert, back to combat. But for a brief, frosting-covered moment, they were more bakery customers than killers. And in the grand theater of war, that's called an intermission. 5. The toothache ceasefire. It's the American Civil War, North versus South. Brother versus brother. Cannonballs versus limbs. But on one rainy afternoon, the battlefield gets weirdly quiet. Not from strategy, but from dental agony. One Union soldier is writhing in pain. A molar gone rogue. Infection, swelling, agony level 9. There's no medic qualified to help, just a guy who once fixed a horse's tooth. Word gets out, a Confederate unit nearby has a legit dentist. And instead of using that info for espionage or artillery targeting, the Union sends a message. Can your guy help? The Confederates pause, think, and agree. War paused, guns down. One soldier crosses enemy lines, escorted like a treaty in boots, to have his tooth yanked by the enemy. He survives. Pain-free, returns to his post, fighting resumes. Because sometimes the most powerful truce in history is a toothache with bipartisan support. Number 4. The Wizard Agreement, Vietnam era. Deep in the jungles of Southeast Asia, two guerrilla units prepare to clash. Rain-soaked, bug-bitten, high on adrenaline and mosquito venom. And then, something in the sky changes. A lunar eclipse. The moon, once whole, begins to vanish. For most of us, a neat cosmic event. For these commanders, a bad omen. One side halts, the other side halts. Not because of radio contact, but because both leaders believed the moon was a tactical warning. No bullets, no ambushes, just vibes and superstition. They literally called off battle because the moon looked sus. For 12 hours, nothing moved. Troops stared skyward, waiting for the celestial cooldown to end. After it passed, they fought. But for one eerie night, war paused because two armed men agreed. Now is not the time. The moon is doing something weird. Strategy, 0. Astrology, 1. 3. The Bathhouse Truce. Somewhere along the volatile border between the Ottoman Empire and the Habsburgs, tensions were shockingly high. Decades of skirmishes, centuries of side-eyes. Everyone's armed, exhausted, and sweaty in medieval wool. Then they discover it. A bathhouse, built by Romans, blessed by engineers, still steaming hot with mineral-rich spring water. And suddenly both sides agree on one thing. They stink. So they form an unspoken treaty. No fighting in the bathhouse. Instead, they alternate usage like a couple navigating a divorce. Ottomans on Monday, Habsburgs on Tuesday. War paused for soap. Of course, spies were planted, sabotage was attempted. But the core rule held, you don't shed blood where you shed grime. For a brief moment in military history, cleanliness was not just next to godliness, it was next to a ceasefire. Number 2. The Bird Incident, World War I. World War I. The battlefield is a soup of trenches, mud, and miscommunication. Radios are rare. Yelling is the norm. Orders echo like half-broken spells. Enter Private Percy's pet parrot, a regimental mascot, smuggled from home, trained to repeat common commands. And one fateful day, during a lull in gunfire, the bird squawks, "Charge!" Chaos. Soldiers hear it. Some believe it's a real order. Others hesitate. Some actually charge. Confusion erupts. Officers panic. A skirmish breaks out, not with the enemy, but within the ranks. all thanks to one glorified feathered soundboard. Fighting is paused to investigate the breach in command. And when they trace it to the parrot, they promote it. Yes, the parrot got a medal, the troops got a lecture, and war paused, not for diplomacy, but for an avian glitch in military protocols. Birds. 1. Chain of command. 0. Number 1. The soccer war. Paused for more soccer. El Salvador versus Honduras. A tense World Cup qualifier becomes the spark for a very real war, like actual tanks over actual fouls. Emotions boil, nationalism ignites, borders close, planes fly, guns fire, and boom, we have ourselves a football war. But here's where it gets absurd. During the active conflict, both nations agreed to a temporary ceasefire to watch a replay of the match. That's right. They paused a literal war, one started over soccer, to rewatch the very match that caused it. Troops set up radios, civilians huddled in towns, and commanders issued orders like, no shelling until halftime. After the game, back to hostilities, because nothing brings people together or tears them apart like international football. War began over a match. War paused for a match. And in between those two goalposts, humanity proved once again, we are deeply unserious creatures with very serious weapons. War is supposed to be cold, calculated, inevitable. But time and time again, it's interrupted by the deeply stupid, the strangely human, or the random whims of astrology, dessert, and sports. Because beneath the uniforms and national anthems, we're still weird, tribal mammals with short attention spans and a desperate need for soap, cake, and halftime scores. These pauses, they aren't failures of warfare. They're glitches in the simulation that remind us what the game was before we started keeping score. So next time someone says war never stops, tell them, actually, it once stopped for a parrot. Like, subscribe. And if you ever find yourself in a battlefield, and bring a soccer ball, it might just save your life.